Making the time 5:30 right here on High Ground Gospel Radio. It is now time for the program Transforming Your Relationships with your host, Bonitto Grange. Stay tuned. Not hearing you. We're gonna have to just check the mic quickly, and then we will return shortly. All right, go ahead.
Testing 1, 2, 3. How are we doing?
We're doing good. Go ahead.
All right. Hello, HGG family. Welcome again to Transforming Your Relationship. I am your host, Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach, and it's good to be here again one more time. It's a beautiful day on the outside. Summer just around the corner, and I feel that what we're going to talk about today is just going to be right up some folks' alley. So for many marriages just around the corner, so hopefully you'll be blessed by the program tonight. If you like the program, you just click the like button and you can subscribe for upcoming conversations. So we're going to talk about pre-marital readiness tonight. I've spoken to some in the past about, so by the way, guys, did you folks have any pre-marital before you got married? And the answer was maybe a day, maybe two, and these were only maybe a few hours. But I find that there's just so much to cover when we're about to step into that arena, when we're about to step into that different area in our life. There's just so much to learn about it. So hopefully tonight, some information that will be given out here will help you a little bit as you journey forward. And as usual, if you are interested, I give a complimentary session. You can give us a call. You can contact HGG radio station, or you can connect me on my website, tlcbonittogrange.com. So let's start. We'll try to start with a verse tonight. Proverbs 18 and 22 says, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. So if you have found a good thing, you know what? You better know how to take care of that good thing. Because if you don't know how, then you need to just educate yourself. Maybe you need to take some lessons from others. And you know what? In this day and age, it's not everybody that you can use or have as a mentor, because just because of the way their relationship is going, or the way they've been educated, or maybe the culture that they might be in. There's so many different dynamics there. But don't wait until trouble begins, and then when challenge surrounds you. But get to know yourself first. I have all heard of some time or another of this romantic narratives. It's easy to believe that once we find our partner, we feel that we are fulfilled. We feel that we are complete. We feel that we are finally at peace. Well, my question is, you should feel fulfilled before you got married. You should feel peace before you got married. You should be bringing all of this good stuff into your relationship. But as many as you know, it's not the case many times. But I believe if you're going to go down that path, you must be aware of one thing. First of all, I think you must be aware of yourself. Know yourself first before you get to know somebody else. Leave him for last, if you please. Take a good look in the mirror first, and ask that girl, ask that man in the mirror, do you know you? Do you know who you are? Is there more that you need to know about you before you step into that area where you have the responsibility now of marrying someone, taking care of someone? So finding someone else's love is just not going to solve your problem. Believe it or not. Some folks figure when they get married, love is going to solve their problem. But that's not the case. Marriage must be one of the few things that you can commit to without further knowledge of what you are getting into. So let me see now. You don't drive on the road before you are trained to learning how to drive a vehicle. You don't get to operate a boat, drive on the lake, drive that boat on the lake or a sea without previous training. You don't go into war. Definitely, you better not go into war. I'm not talking about personal war, but I'm talking about real war here. But you don't go into war without previous combat training. Otherwise, you're going to die. By having training, you can mitigate some losses there. And you dare not fly a plane without previous information and training. I want to know if that man, if that pilot is at the front of the wheel. I want to make sure he knows how to take off this thing. I want to make sure he knows how to land this thing. I want to know that he's got some kind of training under his belt. But in spite of all that above information, I just mentioned, many proceeded to marriage without any education at all about a marriage relationship, what it looks like, how we're supposed to operate, how we're supposed to function. I mean, come on, do yourself a favor and save yourself from future heartaches that can be mitigated. Save yourself from future heartaches by educating yourself. So I've heard someone said one time, "We'll figure it out as we go along," and that may be so, but is that the best approach to marriage? Can you imagine if you drive into a vehicle and somebody said, "Do you know how to drive this guy?" Well, no, I'll just figure it out as I go along. Well, I'm going to open the door and I'm getting out of there. Can you imagine going on a plane and, well, do you have your license? Do you know how to fly this? Well, we'll figure it out as we're about to take off. Excuse me, sir. You know what? Cancel my ticket. I'm getting off of this plane. So the best approach to marriage, you may as well say, let's get behind the wheel in the cockpit, as we just mentioned. So premarital readiness. We will spend so much time planning that wedding. We'll have everything down to the detail, and yet still some haven't even seen a premarital counselor, a premarital coach. Some haven't educated themselves. Some haven't read a book of how this is all supposed to work. They're just excited about the day because they see others just experiencing that day. It's so exciting. It just moves them. But plan for the marriage, not just for that special day. Granted, you want to have that special day. Granted, you want to look best on that special day. You want to have everything in place. The cups must be in place. The flowers must be in place. My Lord, your dress, gotta look. Everything is down to the T, but many fail to really plan for the marriage. And if you walk into a relationship without planning for it, well, some says, you know what, I'm just going to pray about it and God will guide me. And I'm not saying God won't guide you, but God is saying, there's enough education. There's even material in my word that can help you. Go and read Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 down to verse 33. Tells you how a man is supposed to love a woman, how he's supposed to love that woman as himself, and how the wife is supposed to reverence and respect her husband. So if you don't read any other book, go to the Word of God. There is enough information there about marriage that can help you on the way, and other material that God has given knowledge to that you can buy different books. One of them I've always recommended is, forget the author now, but The 5 Love Language. And there's another one I believe every couple should have. It's called Love and Respect also. There's a workbook that you can get with that, or you can just buy the book and read it. Some beautiful information. But statistics report that couples who take premarital education reported higher levels of material satisfaction and have a lower possibility of divorce. Save yourself the heartaches and the sleepless nights by preparing yourself. Don't wait until after the wedding and you find yourself many years later thinking, if only I had better prepared myself. I had done this, some information here in a past video, but I'm going to go over it again for those that might have missed it. There's some wrong reasons why you would want to get married, and just go over a few of them. Some are motivated for marriage because all their friends are getting married. They're going to be like the third wheel everywhere they go now. They're just going to be out of place. So I got to find a man. I got to find a woman. If that is your reason for marrying, that is the wrong reason. Some feel, that marriage failed because the participants, they expect to change them. So once I get married, I will change into a better person. Well, that possibly may be so. And I'm not saying it's not, but marriage does not necessarily change people. Marriage was not designed to change you. It cannot make an immature person become a mature person. It cannot make a emotional immature person become an emotional mature person. So many reasons why some want to get married, but they're the wrong reasons. Songs of selling. Another one, individuals get married because, well, they were going out with this lady, and all of a sudden, they got pregnant, and so because she got pregnant, I have to marry her. Well, that's going to be between you and her. As one of my pastors, late pastor, said years ago, that's going to be between you and her, not me, you and God, not me, you, her, and God. So Songs of Solomon 2:7. I love this verse. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. It's a beautiful imagery here that we have that's talking about love, talking about truth, that love must have freedom, just like the gazelles out there in the desert. They have in their land, they have freedom, and they're free to roam. And so love should have also freedom to move in our hearts. There's a time when love will be awakened, but you dare not awaken love before the time. Why? Because love comes with responsibilities. Some responsibilities that you might not have taken or seen before. Love should not be manipulated any more than a gazelle should be brought into a cage and trained and everything else. And you take them from their freedom, from the place where they were once free, and you put them in a cage, and you try to manipulate them into doing what you want them to do. Love should not be manipulated. So some folks say to me, well, I came into the church when I was 24 years old. As usual, come on, I was a typical teenager. We had our woman and our wine and our song and the clubs and, some places we weren't supposed to go to. But we did anyway. That's what sin does. Sin will drive you into these places that will make you try to look for excitement, try to find love in these places. I'm not saying you might not find love there, but I wasn't looking for love in those areas. I was just looking for a good time. And too, when you go to these places, you're just looking for a good time and maybe a good hookup, but that in itself, that is not enough for you. So some folks say to me, well, how did I handle those raging hormones after spending 24 years in the world, and having taste the world and taste what the world had to offer and be involved and be involved in different intimacy acts and whatever the case might be. But now that you're in the church, how did you make it? Well, this is my answer. I don't know if some have said this before, but I didn't ask God to take away my sexual urge, but I did ask him to help me control what I was feeling so I wouldn't be overtaken by it. Because if I was going to be overtaken by my sexual urge, these hormones that was there flowing, it's there, but it's there to be aroused at certain time in the confinement of marriage, when it's pure, when you're free, when there's no guilt. Let me tell you, things that I'd done before, I felt guilty, continually felt guilty. And if you're true to yourself, you felt guilty too. If you're a Christian out there and you're living for God, when you were out there, you had the call of God on your life. Come on, you're not fooling me. I had the call, but I ignored the call. But now I believe I'm fulfilling the purpose that God has basically designed me to do. So, unless there is a solid emotional foundation, a marriage just based on sex alone, it's going to be unfulfilling. After a while, if that's all it's based on, you are going to want more than sex. You're going to want more than just being intimate with that woman that you call a wife. She might have that figure and everything else, and you just can't wait to get home and you just have those urges, and that's all good. But if that's all that you are marrying that individual for, it's going to be a lonely life down the road. She is going to be a lonely lady down the road. Loneliness will still exist, only now that they can be lonely together. I asked somebody one time, would you rather be miserable single or miserable married? Well, you won't believe what the individual said. You won't believe what the individual said to me. They said that I'd rather be miserable married. Well, everybody have a choice, and if that's how you feel, then go right for it. But anyway, so a marriage based on any selfish motives, combating loneliness, achieving sexual gratification, gaining adult status, or any others, in which personal gratification rather than mutual satisfaction is stress, it's going to lead to unhappy marriage. We're talking about the wrong reasons for getting married. Marriage has got to be a two-way relationship in which the needs of two people, it should be satisfied. In order for that relationship to last, in order for that relationship to grow, in order for both to feel fulfilled, those are some reasons. It's a two-way relationship. So how about some right reasons? There's so many right reasons. I mean, there's some wrong reasons, but there's also so many right reasons. The right reasons for marriage. It's all based on mutual gratifications of needs also. You're looking for love. You want a person that can love you as you are. You don't want to marry a person, and you're going to see some red flags. We're going to come across that here shortly of somebody trying to change you and manipulate you and trying to make you into somebody that you are not. Absolutely not. Couples marry for companionship and sharing in which they can fulfill their emotional needs and also their physical need. It's an important commitment that does not come about accidentally. Well, I've heard of some individuals, they meet a person for a week, a couple of months, and bang, and they're married. And some of them have lasted and lasted. But this day and age, I don't know. I'd want to get to know you first. There's a YouTube I watched the other day, like the one pastor was saying, I want to know how you live. I want to know where you live. I want to know your bank account. I want to know what you look like when you get angry. And the list, he went down the road. I want to know if you got a vision. I want to know, do you know what you're getting into? So it's an important commitment. It does not come about accidentally. People may want to avoid their responsibilities for mate selection by blaming it on chance, and you leave it up to marital success. But you know what? As a Christian, before you get in that emotional state with an individual, we need to seek the face of God to see if this is the right partner for you, one that can support you, one that will love you. I've said this before also, that those that are looking forward to getting married and they're engaging, they're engaging, but they're so emotionally involved that when they go to the altar, as my good friend Jody Campbell said, when they go to the altar, you know what? They say, God, let your will be done, but I want Bill. Let your will be done, but I want Bill. I believe that if you're praying, when you go to the altar, there should be an emptiness. You got to come to God empty. If you come to him full, then you're expecting him to say yes. And you know what? If you keep on pushing the hand of God, I believe it was like I forget the prophet now, that kept on pushing the hand of God until God says, yes, go ahead. But you know what? Not every yes that God says is a good yes. If you keep on pushing the envelope, you'll find out that there's going to be danger down the road. So good reasons to get married. Clearly recognize needs and expectation. So what are some red flags? Let's look at some red flags. You're not being allowed, or you're being afraid to make decision. You're going out with this individual, and every time you're about to make decision, it's like he's making the decision for you. It's like you don't have a voice for yourself, as if you're a child or something. I'm a big grown woman. I'm a big grown man. I can make decisions. Some of them might not be right, but at least, let me be me. Also you're afraid of your partner, or you're being threatened. You feel embarrassed just being around the individual, all because of the way they are acting. Those are red flags. I mean, if you're expecting that to go away down the road, well, it might. But if it don't, you got to tell yourself, I'm willing to live with it. So you have a choice. There's some things that's called unsolvable problems, unsolvable situation that you might have before you get married, or even before you get engaged. And so you have a choice. You can forget about it. I mean, forget about the issue, but just keep on walking, or you can just walk out on it. You have a choice before you say I do. Being embarrassed. If you're going out with someone and it seems like you're being intimidated, you're always being put down, you feel guilty. Let me tell you, as a woman, I've said this before, God has given woman a sixth sense, and if you ignore, ladies, if you ignore that intuition that God has given to you, and you know what I'm talking about, you've had those intuitions that came alive in previous situations, previous decisions, or just your intuition on things that you might have to do or was going to do, and whether it was right or wrong, but you heed it to your intuition. Well, let me tell you, if you're in a relationship, you got to heed also to that God-given intuition that God has placed in your life. Also, you know what? You're going out with someone, all of a sudden, they don't want you to stick around any one of your friends. Oh, what's up with that? You mean I'm that special that you just want me and nobody else? Let me tell you, don't push me away from my friends. And now there's some negative friends, folks, that you know what, you need to get rid of those. There's some friends you just don't need in your life. Some friends, matter of fact, you should have let go a long time ago. You might have gotten married a long time ago if you never had certain friends, but you keep hanging around these friends and they're just dragging you down. I did a YouTube video here some time back. Is you got to learn to let go of some things if it's not serving you, if it's detracting, if it's taken away from you, then it's time just to let it go. You're going with someone and they want to change your behavior. Why? Because the partner's jealous. You can't even look at another man. You can't even look at another girl. These are all red flags. There are so many that I can go through. You're going out with someone, and one of the red flag assessment that I have, and if you feel, you can connect with me and we can go over some of these also. But one of the first you look at is that would you want to marry this individual exactly the way that they are right now? And would you want this individual to be the father of your child? You're going out again, you're engaged, but you're feeling isolated. You're feeling alone. You're trying to connect, but there's no connection. You're not being emotionally supported. The individual that you're with is emotional immature, don't know how to connect with you, don't know how to talk to you. When they talk to you, they're always talking down to you. You are a grown woman and you need to express yourself. Or men, you are a grown man, you need to express yourself. You know what? They don't need to be pouncing on you each and every time. Notice another thing about, ask about their past relationship. How have they shown up in their past relationship? Because whatever struggles they had back there, guess what? There's going to be some of that they're going to be bringing into their previous relationship. Another thing, you're with someone, but everything they say is questionable. You're questioning everything they say. Now, for you to question everything, there's got to be some pattern that this individual had or have why you are questioning everything that they are saying. Something is just off. Again, listen to your God-given intuition. Your intuition is trying to tell you that something is off. But guess what? Love is blind. You've all heard that before. Love is blind. You know what? It blinds you from reality. It blinds you for the things that you should see. Because when you're in love, there's a lot of things you don't see until 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, my Lord, who is this individual anyway? I thought I married so and so, but now he's turned into a monster because love was blind. You ignore those red flags because you figure, you know what, when I marry him, I'm going to change him. Well, honey, good luck with that. You know, you're going to sleep, but your sleep is disturbed because you're stressed over this individual that you're going with. It's taking away your sleep. It's filling up your mind. Learn to let go. I'd rather hurt now. You'd be better off to hurt now than for you to hurt later on. You shouldn't be uncomfortable in introducing the individual to others that you have. You should be excited. You should be excited. So relationship, it can be tough and sometimes very challenging, but you can work around that. So relationship readiness. Are you really now? You say you're ready for a relationship. Well, let's go over a few things here to see if you're really ready for it. What about your visions and your values and your life purpose? What about that? Do you know anything about it? Are you clear about your values? Do you have? I'm going to say that later on. But do you have? Do you know your values? Are you living by your values? Are you compromising on your values? Do you have any values at all, or does everything just go out the door? Do you know who you are? Are you living life fully as you ought to live life with your vision and with your values that you have? As for your requirements, do you know what you will tolerate from what you won't tolerate? Do you know what is non-negotiable? If it's a requirement, it's black and white. You will not pass go. You will not go across this line. If this requirement is if this is my requirement and it's not going to change, then you know what? If you compromise on your requirement, you will have an issue down the road. You can take it to the bank. For an example, if you have a Christian and you said, if you're a Christian and you have a non-Christian, and one of your requirements was, you know what, I'm going to marry somebody in the faith, and that's what it is. That's your requirement. It's non-negotiable. But after a while, you meet Adam on the street, and Adam looked like God just brought him down just for you. And all of a sudden, your requirement now is being compromised. But he's not a Christian. He doesn't love God, but he's treating you good. So you have compromised on your requirements, and you can mark it down. If you marry Adam, then you can mark it down the road. You are going to have issues because you compromise on a value which you said was black and white, which you said was non-negotiable. Know what you're willing to put up with. Know what you're not willing to put up with. And then you have your needs. Your needs. Are you clear about your needs? The foundation for you that you're doing for what you're doing on a daily basis. Do you know what your needs are? Your needs. Do you have a support system where you can be supported, whether even financially or even emotionally? Do you know what your needs are? And as for a history pattern, which I just vaguely mentioned earlier, as for your history pattern, you know, what kind of relationship is this individual coming out of? Listen, we're talking about premarital readiness. You need to know this, and there's so much more, but you need to know this before you say yes to the ring, before you say I do, because like I said, when you say I do, you love the individual, but you haven't got a clue what you're saying I do to, because down the road, you're going to have some challenges, but you got to remember, we said I do. Down the road, you said for richer or poorer, all of a sudden this man is broke. He ain't got no money. You know what? He was fine when I married him, but now it's a whole different ball game for richer or for poor. Well, you know what? I'm out of here because I wanted to live a good life and everything else, for richer or for poorer, until death do us part. So my relationship history pattern, or the individual's relationship, not only must you be aware of your relationship history pattern, but you must also be aware of his relationship history pattern. And if he's not vulnerable to express his pattern, and if you're not vulnerable to express your pattern, your history pattern, then some things might come up down the road that could be more challenging than it actually need to be. Something that could have been dealt with in the earlier stage, some things that where conversations could have been had, and the solutions could have been brought into the picture. But because you didn't feel like being vulnerable, if you can't be vulnerable with one another, even before you say I do, then you know what, you might end up having issues down the road. What I find strange, as Christians, we will come and we will do premarital after the engagement. I'm not saying it's all the time, but I've seen it so many times that they get engaged and then okay, we're engaged now, but now we're gonna find and we're gonna have a premarital. Well, that's okay. I'm not saying nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, you're so involved that when folks come to me, I let them know, like, after we finish, what if this doesn't work based on the assessment, based on what you have just said, and based on the answers? Is this something that you still want to pursue? I'm never one to tell anybody don't marry. I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of that. But based on the information, based on the conversation, that you're going to have to decide: do you still want to progress with this? But I've also had individuals that came before they got engaged. A good friend of mine, he said, Bonitto, man, I want to know. I want to know some of this stuff before I even say, will you marry me? I just want to know more about relationship, more about me also. And so we had a couple of months or so just having conversations, assessments, and so forth. And he got married shortly after and is still married. So all I'm saying, even as Christians, that if you're falling in love with someone and you feel that this is the one that God has placed in your life, do the premarital counseling or coaching that we do that before you get engaged. Because some, when they have done that, they realize, this is not the right person for me. I talked to a pastor just a few weeks ago, and he just finished a premarital counseling after they were engaged, I believe. And and he mentioned that whether the wedding was called off or they separated. Why is that? Because some things came up during the conversation that needed to be not fixed, but needed some attention, needed to focus on that more, because it was going to be an issue down the road. Emotional issues also in your past relationship experience. How does that impact you? How does that impact the present relationship? How does that impact you emotionally now? How does it impact you now in your present relationship in comparison when you were in your past relationship? What are you taking over? What are you leaving behind? What are you letting go of? And there's communication that we go over this. Now I'm coming to an end here. Communication, we go into that when we do our premarital. We go into your community, right? Are you surrounded by caring people? Are you aware of how others come across, and how you're affecting others, how others are affecting you? Do you have a close circle of friends that you can gather together and have conversation? And how about your lifestyle? Are you satisfied with where you're at? Are you satisfied with your work? Are you healthy? Mind, body, and soul. Another one is my dating patterns. I how authentic have you been in the past? That's what I would want to know, because every time you open your mouth, I got a question mark. And if I have a question mark, like I mentioned earlier, if I have a question mark, then something is off. So going for some tips here for a successful marriage here. I asked some individuals that were together for 20 years plus, and they got divorced. And I asked him, what is it that you'd want to pass on and tell somebody that was getting married? And all these individuals that I asked, they came up with pretty well, essentially with the same answer, So I thank them for it. But the number one, as you many would know, is communication. If you can't talk about it, you will never deal with it. So you need to learn to talk about it. And as men, we don't come across like we should all the time, but you should be able to talk about whatever it is. You should try to make yourself vulnerable with one another. Forget about your feelings for once, and just tell it like it is. Just be naked, as the Bible said in Genesis. I believe it is Genesis 2:25. I believe it is, that says they were naked. They were naked, and they were not ashamed. Can you be fully naked with one another and express your feelings, express exactly how you feel, and still not feel judgmental, still not feel like it's going to be retaliated, still not feel like it's going to come up in your face? So they said communication was one, and they said expectation. What is it that you want from me? This is what they're saying. They're saying, I can't read your mind, so please help me to understand. Because many couples run into marriage with huge expectation. I wonder how many that's listening today have got a checklist of everything that they need. I want to have this, and I want to have this, and you're wondering why. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have these checklists or these values that you might want to have and incorporate in your relationship. But man, if you got 100 on your checklist and you wonder why you're still single, God is still trying to make that individual. God is still trying to create that individual, because you got a tall list, honey. So it's going to take a while to build this one. So I hope you get what you're praying for in the end. And another one they said was going to bed angry is a waste of time, and it could be a lifetime of regret. Basically, take one day at a time, live one day at a time, and make sure that before you fall asleep and close your eyes, that everything is all right. And as they told me this, I realized that communication, expectation, and not being angry before you go to bed, these are all biblical principles. If you want to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, you've got to learn to communicate. Definitely communicate by having a prayer life. You say you want to get married. As a Christian, you say you want to get married, but do you have a prayer life? Not only that, but does he have a prayer life? Does he know God for himself? Or is he in church just because he was brought up in the church? Is he in church just because mama says you got to go to this church? You got to realize that if you are at a certain level in your journey, in your spiritual journey, honey, you gotta be careful of who you're going to pick up. You got to be careful who you're going to bring into your life, because now that individual is going to be the head of the head of the home. That individual will be there now to be able to make decisions and everything else with you. But you want someone, if that is your value, that you want a person that is a Christian, no matter what they look like, if they don't fit your value, if they're not biblically sound, if they're not spiritually and emotionally mature, it's going to be your choice whether this is what you want to step into or not. And as for expectation, biblical concept, there's certain things that Christ require of us, and there's certain things that we require of him. He said he'll never leave us nor forsake us. And his expectation, our expectation to him, is that we must worship him, enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise, and just be thankful unto him. Those are expectations, relationship expectation. And going to bed angry, you know what? Before we go to bed and close our eyes, we must ask the Lord for forgiveness. We must, if I don't wake up tomorrow, I must know that everything is all right with me and Jesus. So you fell in love for a reason. Let's keep the reason alive. Let's keep the reason alive. So I'm here to help couples keep things alive. I'm here to help couples on that journey that they're going on, maybe for the first time. And some of the things that we do with couples is we do a relationship assessment that will give you an eye opener, not only of yourself but also the individual. We learn conflict resolution. We identify roadblocks. We explore relationship and history patterns. We also talk about identifying your requirements, your needs, and your want, sharing your values and your visions. There is just so much. We do a personality conflict, a personality profile, where you will do a quiz for your personality. He will do a quiz for his personality, and based on your personality, it'll actually tell you what challenges that you will have in a relationship. Based on his, he will tell it. It will tell him what challenges he will have in his life or in a relationship. But when you put the two together, now it will tell you the challenge. between the two. 4 signs of toxic relationship, and then I'm going to close off. It's control issue, communication is difficult, feeling on edge, and you're always being blamed. If you recognize these signs, you know what? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Okay, we won't start off with that. But enjoy the. I hope you enjoy the program. Subscribe, click the like button. God bless you. I hope it's been some insight for those that maybe haven't heard some of this before. But you know what? You can have a great journey, but educate yourself. Call someone. Call a relationship counselor, a relationship coach. I'm here. I'm Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach. You can check me out at tlcbonittogrange.com on transforming your relationship. God bless you and have a wonderful day.
Forming your relationship with Bonitto Grange. Join us again next Friday at 5:30 for another program. This is High Ground Gospel Radio, reaching you at the highest mountain and the lowest valley. Stay tuned.